Joint.
Child, I'm about ready to go on and get into this thing. How you feeling?
That's what's up. Ward's in the house. So yeah, we're about ready to get up into the thing here. Let me just kick us off like we do. And we just want to, man, just continue to honor the folks and the people. And that's where we are. We're going to kick it on off.
Porch on Peachtree with Garnes and Kemi Bennings.
Yes. Uh-oh, in the background. Watch yourself. Hey, what you got, Ed? You know that's the rerun.
I know,
what's happening? Remember, that's the rewind. Hey, you know that's the rewind.
Don't get me started up in here now.
Hey, welcome to Porch on Peachtree, where we discuss and dissect art, music, current events, and community concerns. It's just my good brother, Ed Garnes, right over there, and we chatted up. We had great conversation, so we just wanted to invite y'all into our conversation, and both of us learned in the process. So, Ed, tell them who you are.
Man, I am Ed Garnes when I'm not eating fried hush puppies on Bankhead highways. I am the founder of From Afros To Shelltoes and Sweet Tea Ethics. I have common sense, but I have
Ward.
Yeah, I have common sense, but I do have a couple of masters. I got a master's in counseling, master's in psych. I'm a psychology professor, all-around community servant, and just hoping to still have my righteous mind this glorious Sunday.
Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. I'm your home girl, from Augusta, GA, by way of the ATL, the Renaissance Woman and Creative Badass. You know what that means is started out as a poet, just following the arrows, following the poetry, and really on a spiritual path. So I've just kind of reinvented myself over and over and over again, and I'm still a student of life, and grateful to be here. And man, it's just a wonderful thing. Founder of Soul Sisters Juke Joint and Ministers of Sound, a mover and shaker, as much as I can. If I want to say do what you're supposed to do here on the planet. I'm a spiritual seeker. I am also a founder of Kick-Ass Compassion. I'm a certified life coach, and transformational life coaching is really kind of what I'm interested in, like why we have these patterns or choose these patterns and habits that, give us these great opportunities. And, we just here, checking in. You know what I mean? Know a lot about, grandma say know a lot about a little bit.
Yeah, a lot about a little bit.
Experience.
You know what I'm saying?
So, but, also, Ed, we're here. This show is a powerful dedication. We kind of got our little situation on, Oh, by the way, I'm repping Soul in the A by my girl, Peachtree, Peach Clay Official. That's Sister Vanessa Boyd. I call her Ivy Boyd. So I'm repping Soul in the A today on my T-shirt. So I just want to just big up all the artists and whatnot, because that's kind of what we're into today. Just dissecting the art and just talking about legendary folks. So Ed, take us off in this conversation.
Yeah,
with,
man. So, remember I told you I was healing, right? Let me get my tea together. I told you I was healing. I was feeling like I had just let go of some stuff, and then I got a call that Brother Hamilton Bohannon, Mr. Bohannon is what I call him, had transitioned and become an ancestor. And I just I don't know, man. It just took me somewhere because your childhood. You're getting old when your childhood starts. Mentors start to leave you. And Mr. Bohannon, funk legend, man. I mean, those Motown bands from 1965 to 72. He was the band leader. So when you're listening to Stevie Wonder, when you're listening to Marvin Gaye, when you're listening to all those Motown acts from that period of 65 to 72, he was the band leader. But also, he was like a second father to me. And so to grow up around someone that had his level of humility, I mean, everyone had sampled him, like Intro, the R&B group, let me be the one. The one you come running to, whenever you need it. See, I bring that
down.
See what I'm saying? Yes. That was Mr. Bohannon. The Cashmere Thoughts from Jay-Z. That was Mr. Bohannon. Mary J song, "Ooh, What You Do to Me," Mr. Bohannon, right?
Oh, got
Justin
you.
Timberlake. I mean, everyone has sampled him, but I thought it was good to bring him in the room and honor him. When I was going through, how you know me, so death
Right.
takes me low, and I
No,
was
yeah.
really struggling, with my dad. And I went over to see Mr. Bohannon. One of these conversations was like 3 or 4 hours, and he just gave me game. Okay, like free $1 million game. And so I wanted to start off by sharing 5 lessons that I learned from Mr. Bohannon before we go deep into this music thing.
You know what?
So
I'm
I'll
going
give
to
you
type
5
that
lessons.
in. Yes,
5 lessons from
lessons.
Mr. Bohannon, because I don't want to say his first name. He went by Bohannon, but I put the Mr. out of respect because I don't want him to come down and smack me. All right.
Okay.
But one of the first things about Mr. Bohannon is that he owned his masters, right? I remember having a conversation in elementary school and him sitting me down and explaining to me about ownership and owning your masters. It's lessons like that me and you still apply to this day. We own our brands. A lot of people can't say that they own their brands, and we own our brands. So he owned his masters. He was able to leave Hollywood at the height of his career. When Motown moved to LA in the early 70s, Mr. Bohannon was like, "Look, I'm not raising my kids in this. I'm gonna move back. I'm gonna move back to Atlanta. Move back to Georgia." So he left at the height of his career, but he was able to sustain himself because he owned his masters. So ownership, right?
Right.
Secondly, he was unapologetically black, right? And he understood what being black meant. He never forgot that he came from humble beginnings in Noonan, Georgia, and there was just this black pride and dignity. He was a man, and he was a servant of his community, and he never forgot that. So in his music, you hear the drum. We all know the drum, that's African centered as hell. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then the third thing that he taught me is to celebrate yourself, right? Now, he was a humble person, but around his house, he would have his awards, his plaques. You can see all the artists that sampled him. And I asked him why he did that. He said, well, if you don't celebrate yourself, who's going to celebrate you? So he always celebrated personally his accomplishments. He wasn't braggadocious, but he always put his accomplishments up. He said, take your awards off the counter, put them up on the wall. So, celebration of yourself and your accomplishments and being proud in that. The fourth thing is that he put family first. Here's a man, my good friend Bo, his godfather was Marvin Gaye. I mean, he knows everyone, right? But he put his family first because he understood in the black community that the family is a sense of strength. So putting it first is the fourth thing. The fifth thing is humility. I know very few people that are international superstars but never act like it. He opened up his home to me. He opened up his house to the community. And I'm just glad that I was able, to walk in his influences the years that I did. So I definitely want to bring those 5 things to the table, and just to go through them. Own your masters, black pride and dignity, celebrate yourself, family first, and have a sense of humility.
Wow. So powerful. Man, just some things that just stood out. I think just given the whole timing right now.
Yeah.
That being apologetically black and just really being proud of who you are, who we are, like as individuals, as melanated people, being okay with that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I can attest to the fact that, because of, our lineage and things that we went through, I think that even in this day and time, we just have to always continue to check ourselves.
Yeah.
That we're just as worthy and deserving of just freedom and happiness and everything that we desire for ourselves. Like, we are deserving of that. Just continue to remind ourselves and being like proud of our culture, proud of our history, and but it is if we don't remind ourselves sometimes, we just it's out there. You can get caught up.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate you, sharing, like, you know, about Mr. Bohannon, you know,
Yeah,
because I, you know, when I got the news as well,
yeah,
and when you sent me the text message, and I was, you know, carrot dog, X and Y.
yeah. I
And then
know.
when I sat down, it dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute, I know this dude from like Rare Groove Sets. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like in the ATL, you know.
Yeah.
And then I was scrolling through Facebook and came through good brother Jamal Ahmed. He had a powerful dedication. And I was like, oh, damn, you know, then it like totally hit me, you know, just so I love that, just unapologetically Black, reminding ourselves that we are, it's our birthright, grandma say, you know, to attain the level of greatness of your intention. Like, what is your intended purpose here on the planet? You know, what is it that you need to overcome to get to so that we can be the greatest versions of who we are? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel that certainly includes unapologetically Black, just being proud, and in that pride, really activating that with, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like supporting Black business, supporting each other, checking on each other. You know, just, man, I'm so enriched by that lesson. I also, you know, when you were talking about celebrating yourself, personal accomplishments, again, that's a thing, I think, sometimes for us as Black people, you know, to just big up ourselves and be okay with that, you know, and not feel like, okay, it's, you know, we're being an egotistical blah, 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 you know, and being proud, because at the end of the day, From Afros to Shelltoes, it's part of your legacy. Like that's your James Baldwin on the wall. That's
I have
Jr.
finally accepted that. I have walked in that light finally. I have finally accepted that. You know?
That's real. That's real. Celebrate yourself. So that it just really made me think, because, you know, for me, a lot of times I just the humbleness and the humility has been really huge for me, you know what I mean? And a powerful grounding tool. But I think that there are times where, you know, it's okay to say, oh, you know, here's, you know, not like kind of water it down, you know, just really be okay with saying, yeah, you know, it was dope, you know what I'm saying? You know, and being and honoring that, you know, because sometimes sometimes it's not really the easiest thing to get there, or to birth, if you will, From Afros to Shelltoes. You know, I'm sure you ran away from it a few times, you know.
Yeah, because you got haters, you know, people trying to take your ideas, you know. You have to drop people off like weed when the cops come. You know what I'm saying?
Man. You know what? But also, I'll say a powerful lesson about people trying to take your idea, right?
Yeah.
Grandmama say, what God implants as a seed for you is just for you, and no one can do it like you can. I had an instance of that with a minister of sound, and we were working on it, and literally someone chose to do another exhibit saying something like DJs with their, you know, whatever it was, you know what I mean?
We ain't gonna give them too much praise.
You know what I mean? So, but for me, ministers of sound, like what I was given had so much depth. I mean, this person went so far as even the verbiage on the flyer, on my flyer and stuff like that. Like, people sometimes choose that path, but you know, Spirit tapped me on the shoulder and said, you know what? No one can, if someone gives you an idea, if you know, you are given a gift or an idea of something, no one can birth it like you can, because they weren't given the coding, you know, to emit, you know, as an offering to the people. You know what I mean? They weren't given that. So, you know, everybody nobody could do From Afros. It can't be duplicated, because the spirit and energy that you bring to it, Ed Garnes Jr., it makes it what it is. It's no sweet tea. You understand what I'm saying? But that was a powerful lesson for me back in, I think, around 2008, 2009, and actually attended the exhibit, and you know, and just kind of you know, see what it was all about.
Yeah.
And at that same time, it was just a powerful lesson at that time. No one can birth your vision as you were given it. So in essence, don't worry about the haters.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, but you know, I'm talking in past tense, but you know, you helped me understand it, because when I was going through that fight, remember, I was like going crazy. You was like, brother,
right.
that came from spirit to you. Can't nobody take that. But you helped me come to a realization about that. I know it's something I always wanted to ask you. You know, since we have been, you know, if you look at our experiences together over 50 years that we have been in art and entertainment, when you add both of our years of service together. So what made you, you know, go from like watching art, listening to music, to wanting to produce for our culture? Because, you know, there's a difference in being a fan and then being a producer. So what took you from fan and admirer of culture and music to, you know what, I'm going to put some things together and be a culture producer?
You know, I think it was, there was a notion that something was bigger than me. You know what I mean? It's bigger than you, Kemi. And at the same time, I was writing poetry. I was hosting Patty Hut Cafe, but really being a very like aware of all of the powerful artists that were stepping on the stage and what people were saying.
Okay.
And it just, I think it was a natural thing. I just began jotting things down in my little notebook. You know, back in that time, you know, I always had chat books, notebooks, and going to the poetry readings edge. You remember the ATL?
Yeah, I remember.
And so I would just jot these names down, and I really feel like the poetry for me has been a guiding post. Okay. The words that have been given to me, poetically speaking, have also been messages of how to move, what I may have been going through at that time. You know, and I guess kind of the fortitude and a force behind it, just to see what's on the other end of it. If you follow your spirit, Kemi, if you follow these signs of your consciousness, these dreams that you were given, the little whispers in your ear, your spiritual consciousness, your intuition, if you follow that, like, even though it's not popular in a sense, if you follow, you know, where will you seek, you know, what will you seek? Will you seek something higher than yourself? And that's really been a powerful lesson for me in and of itself. And it's also been the courage, you know, and sometimes I guess, damn, it's just been like, would you do it? You know what I mean? Would you do it? If God took your passions and dreams and made it your destiny, what would you do? Like, that was the question. That was the first line of a poem. You understand? And it went very, very deep. You know, that was one of the first pieces. And I think that was the kickoff to the, you know, stepping on stage to share the poetry. Yeah. And then at a certain point, recognizing all of these powerful artists and thinking to myself, wow, how about a platform? And at that time, there was a lot of solidarity amongst the brothers in Atlanta. In the poetry scene, everything with the Atlanta Renaissance was buzzing, all of those things. Yeah. But the brothers, they kind of had a solidarity. But the sisters, you know, it was still, you know, from a standpoint of producing shows together, yeah, doing collective works, collaborations, various things like that. But I just saw an influx of women. And, you know, that kind of was the impetus for Soul Sisters Juke joining. And I think every step of the way thereafter, you know, was maybe just my interest in the theater. And then lo and behold, get a call from the theater to say, hey, we'd like you to do Soul Sisters Juke joint here. And then I have all these bells and whistles, which really inspired me to put on the other hats of the producers. Like, okay, well, why don't we do something interactive on the back of the stage? Why don't we, you know, make it more of a musical theatrical to depict these artists' music, and, you know, have some other creative engineers behind it, you know? So it's really morphed and grown, you know, over the years. But also I've grown as a person. I mean, I think Soul Sisters Juke Joint for me has been you know, my big sister. I'm the only girl in the space of three brothers, and so Soul Sister Juke Joint was my big sister. You know, she tapped me on
Okay.
the shoulder, she kicked my ass. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And and it was always a lesson. You know what I mean? Every single Soul Sister Juke Joint, it begins with me and being able to tell a story, to merge the artists, their original music together, and to collectively emit something to the people that they can take with them as
Yeah.
inspiration, as entertainment, inspiration, and something that can really serve them to, you know, to be their greatest self. So, but it comes from this spiritual space
Yeah.
of the desire to be the greatest version of who I am, to reach my greatest potential, to you know, be of service to the community, and to reach whatever I'm supposed to do here, and whatever my mission was, to accomplish that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, that's you know, the poetry. I mean, I'll share something with the people a little later on in the situation.
All
You
right.
know,
Now don't get
I go ahead and pull one of them out. I've been thinking about that lately, about doing a little Instagram live on that to dissect, because it really is kind of, for me, you know, it's a deep work. You know, I feel like it's timeless and timely. So yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah, Tanja, this big and part of the vision of Soul Sister Juke Joint,
Yeah.
powerful collaboration. I'm keeping you. But yeah, Ed, so what was it for you, man? What was it for you? Because I
You
know
know
your
what?
side is poetry as well. Poetry.
Yeah, I
The
see.
poetry.
See a lot. So you know the poet side. I retired a little bit from poetry, but I would say when I look back, my aunt Bobby's Juke Joint in Vicksburg, the story really starts there, right? So here I am listening to all of this music, the OJs. My dad liked the stylistics, you know what I'm saying? Listening to all this music and processing that when I was younger. So I get to college, and a brother by the name of Whitfield Gray gives me an opportunity to do a television show. And I had this musical knowledge, so I could just go off the dome, talk about who produced these songs. And I said, hey, I have to do something. I have to do something with this knowledge. So, you know, I started my first company in college. I started producing events. I started DJing. But, you know, I always, you know, was known for rocking, you know, hip hop gear, you know, Adidas shell toes. And
yeah,
once I got out of college, I was like, you know, Ed Garnes, I want an identity separate from my father. So I started branding myself as From Afros To Shelltoes, and it started to take off because people were like, oh, that's fascinating. What's in the name? But in the name, it's just we're bridging the generation gap. So I wanted to start doing productions that bridge, you know, what I got from Aunt Bobby's Juke Joint to the hip hop community, right? And not just talk about music, but talk about the psychology behind the music, talk about how the influences of Black culture drip through everything that we do. And so these cultural productions and panels, that's what I started doing From Afros To Shelltoes. But I have to always remind myself, the very first one I did, it was like 3 or 4 people there, right? And it just grew into this movement because, you know, I was consistent, you know. So you look at starting almost, might be close to 20 years now I've been doing From Afro To Shelltoes. So to start with 3 people and then get a phone call from Dr. Cornell West, maybe halfway in of those 20 years, like, hey, I'm coming to Atlanta. We're going to come to your thing. Look, let's do this thing, bro. I just see how far I've come. But poetry was always the root for me because when I was younger, not only did I have Aunt Bobby's Juke Joint, my mother had exposed me to Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, Rita Dove. You know, I grew up listening to a lot of women poets, and also Amir Baraka, who I had opportunity to open for. I've opened for the Last Poets. I've even opened for Nikki Giovanni. So my mother giving me this poetry just gave me an artistic sensibility that never left me. And I wanted to honor my elders by producing things that would show that we come from a continuum of art. And that's how, you know, From Afros To Shelltoes got it started. And then the heartbeat of From Afros To Shelltoes is Sweet Tea Ethics. Those are the conversations on Grandma's porch mixed with a little formal education from these white stamp of approval institutions. Because I mean, I'm Black, you know, but I do know how to teach as well.
Yes, of course.
So that's how it started. That's how it started for me, man. I thank my Aunt Bobby all the time because that emotional vitality that Dr. White talks about with Black psychology, that's where it started. It all came together. I saw how I could trace my whole existence in my life from a juke joint song.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It just makes me think about, just the journey of how the influence of my father was the impetus for a project called Ministers of Sound. And it was a parallel and contrast of DJs to ministers.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, wow, in that thought process, man, DJs, they work pretty much the same schedule as many pastors and preachers, from Wednesday night Bible study on down to Sunday, Sunday school and all of those things. And also thinking about DJs as the air shifters and really the ministers of music, because truly, they emit the vibration of music, through their ministry or their respective pulpits. And, just being able to add depth to, each project and have some kind of, it's always something personal, and thinking that DJs are sometimes too, they're not, I guess, honored enough for what they do in the community. If you think about this quarantine right now, like that's been the binding thing. Like, if anybody on here has not ever listened to D Nice during the quarantine, club quarantine, like, there's been like this whole renaissance of DJs and whatnot. And we have our powerful, very own DJs, DJ Kemet. I've been in sets with DJ Applejack, Salah, during this time, Stan Zeph, but just some of the different live sets. Tabone, I've caught Tabone in the house as well. So, it's just really, it's music. It's the air shifters, and that's the common thing. Like somebody had to play that music in Bobby's juke joint. You understand what I'm saying? And it just makes us really, I guess, being grateful for the artist, being really, really grateful for the artist that also choose this powerful journey as well. So
it's hard to imagine my life without the arts. Like, I think about those Saturday mornings when Luther come on, we hear do you better go get that Lysol.
Right.
You better go get that Lysol.
You already know, honey. You already know them chores better be getting done.
And then my dad, singing the stylistics, bet you I mean, it was all around me, but what I didn't realize, it was healing in that music. You know what I'm saying? My dad listened to music because, life is hard. You already know that. Like, life is hard. And nothing neutralize white supremacy like some good soul music. So, I think about the things that I like. I'm still stuck in like the late 60s to like the early 80s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So give me some Stephanie Mills, give me some Dionne Warwick, give me some
Anita Baker, come on, some Isley Brothers.
You know what I'm saying? Isley Brothers. And I'm gonna post my Spotify playlist that I have. I have several little things on there. But when it comes to like discoveries, right? So we're gonna take you from
right, I'm with you.
So from Aunt Bobby's juke joint, I then start the transition to spinners. You right. Yeah. So I transitioned from the juke joint, get this little education. I say, hey, I need to be a music journalist, right? So because I have these juke joint testimonies that emanate inside of my being, right? So I have this knowledge, right? And I'm like, I need to transition from doing television in college to actually writing about the music, right? And so I'm proud to say that because of my trained ear, like I'm like 20 years ahead. So Brother Killer Mike, I wrote the first story on Killer Mike 20 years ago. I wrote one of the first stories on Anthony David 20 years ago. One of the first stories on Divinity Rocks, who becomes Beyonce's bassist 20 years ago. Before he even did the Bill Withers tribute, I crowned Anthony David as the Bill Withers of hip hop soul. That was like right.
Because that's when he was playing a lot of covers then, and Bill was his
yeah,
dude.
but I heard
if you didn't hear Anthony
Bill.
David, Bill Witherspoon, you ain't see him. Yeah.
Jessica Kim said, you need to come out and hear this brother. I said, oh, that's Bill Withers. He had his own style. I said, but that's steeped in the juke joint. That's Bill Withers right there. And so I had no idea that these stories was going to take off. And so I saw, there was a responsibility for me to use my knowledge to put people on. So, one of Avery Sunshine's first stories, that may be like 15 or 16 years ago, I did. So I felt a responsibility to represent our culture and bring people into the mainstream. And it started in college because I was one of the first, remember we used to call them VJs, right? I was the first disc jockey. One of my discoveries was Maxwell. Columbia Records didn't know what to do with Maxwell, sent me all of his stuff. I started playing it. I was one of the first people to play Maxwell. I was one of the first people to play Master P. I was one of the first people to play early Snoop Dogg when Priority Records used to hook me up. Just imagine I'm 18, 19 years old, calling president and said, Priority Records, like, hey, I need some records. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So all of that is steeped from my upbringing and just how I got in the game. So
wow. Interesting story about Avery Sunshine. So
go ahead, bro.
We did Soul Sisters Juke Joint. Soul Sisters Juke Joint started in May of 2002. For those of you all who know the Apache Cafe, formerly Yin Yang Cafe, all you Yin Yangs, that's old Atlanta, people know about that, but old Atlanta, pop your collar right now. So, we started that at Apache Cafe. One of the first artists at that time was Liz Wright. She did the first Soul Sisters Juke Joint, and the late great Sheila Turner did a photo exhibit at the first Soul Sisters Juke Joint. Big up, she just had a birthday a couple of days ago this week. So yeah, big love to Sheila. So, but Avery Sunshine, she began as a duo. It was she and a sister named Maia.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Daisy Rue. Daisy Rue. So we featured Daisy Rue on Soul Sisters Juke Joint. God, that was probably like our first year. I think that was probably our first year. Okay. So Daisy Rue, that was the duo singing team, and it was it was just a beautiful thing. And I'm talking about like Maia, she went on to do The Color Purple on Broadway. And interesting enough, I took my mom there around her 60th birthday and went backstage and just like she remembered Daisy Rue, and it was just such a magical experience, But yeah, we know and love that Avery Sunshine is and Maia, one of our own Soul Sisters Juke Joint alumni. And then, of course, many years later, we highlighted Avery Sunshine a couple of times. She's always in our good graces and one of our soul sisters. And we're just so proud of just all of that. I mean, we probably highlighted and showcased in a musical theatrical format over 300 or so artists over the years. It's just been this amazing form of bridging sisterhood and being able to have dialogue and just being able to work together as women of color.
But here in our history, I realized something that I don't even know that we realized was present in the atmosphere. I found it From Afros to Shelltoes, and you found the Soul Sisters Juke Joint around the same time.
Wow. Yeah.
When you start talking about the first one,
we cross paths, Ed? Did we cross paths over at Jessica Care Moore's spot? More Epic?
Yes. Let's give Jessica Care Moore some
and
more epics, because remember, so Jessica Care Moore moves to Atlanta, right? The story starts with Kevin Powell. Jessica Care Moore moves to Atlanta. I say, hey, brother Kevin Powell told me to shout you out, and so that was the stamp of approval for her. She's like, oh, Kevin, you cool peoples. And so
exactly.
we would be at More Epics, and that's where we connected on Mitchell Street. Because remember, I was always
you were doing poetry. You were doing poetry there.
I was doing poetry. I was doing my Tiger Woods, Newt Gingrich. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing my Tiger Woods poem. And so that's what we met, was More Epics. And I'm going to tell you how long we've known each other. Do you know that was 2000?
Wow.
It was
Wow.
2000. We met at More Epics, one of those
Wow.
poetry nights.
Man, that was great. That was a magical time. I mean, that whole era of time. I want just really big up Atlanta. It was such a renaissance. Anybody who was here, it's like this just bubbling of just energy and just, you know. But I feel like Atlanta's still like that place to birth, you know,
It is.
your ideas, to birth, you know, who you are. It's something about those Southern roots here, you know, and the shoulders on which we stand in here, specifically in Atlanta. You know, it's like you don't really have a choice.
Most of my artistic tribe I link to More Epics. John Good, Spinks, you,
Oh yeah,
Jessica, Polaroid. You know
oh,
Polaroid,
yes.
Even when I would come back in town from all these degrees I was getting, Fahamu used to host.
Yeah.
What was the thing that Fahamu hosted when he was
Elevation on Wednesday nights at
yes.
Yeah.
Coming back from school for those Patty Hut, you know, so like it was a synergy there, you know, and a brotherhood and a sisterhood that kind of linked us, and I think that's why we're all connected to this day.
Yeah, I do. I believe that, and I feel like it's also the I don't know. Atlanta has such a unique ecosystem, even now, of artistry and cultural people and just cultural movement. And I think the literary scene at that time, it made me feel like the Harlem Renaissance kind of vibe.
Oh yeah,
because everything was, you know, from that beatnik era, we're putting, you know, music to poetry to music. Man, you know, Patty Hut Cafe, we had four piece band up in there. You know what I mean? And it was just really an interesting time, and I feel like it really cultivated who we are today, and the different trials and tribulations and the courage it took to get there, and sometimes feeling like, wow, you know, just going down the rabbit hole of, wow, I think that rabbit hole was somewhere around like More Epics and, you know, different places you find out about. Like, you had to be in the know to be in the know, you know, because at that time there was no Facebook, you know what I mean?
Facebook. You get that phone call on your house phone. Hey, John and them gonna be at Sister Sarah's house in the basement.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's
a $2 cover.
Down there. Right. Exactly.
It's a $2 cover. You bring the sweet tea. Somebody cooking fish. You know? But you know what I want to ask you too, because something that we both do, we have put on people before they were popular, right? So where did that come from you to have that vision that, you know, we don't need a white stamp of approval, we don't need an industry stamp of approval. We're gonna put on people that have the it factor. So where did that come from you to do that at a time when these people had not traversed the mainstream?
Well, I think the it factor for me was, what are you saying? You know what I mean?
Okay.
What's in your music, you know? And the vibe, it was something with the vibe, and you can tell, like, well, for me, it's like being able to really feel the music, like, and having kind of a reference point of great music before, like the music of our parents, and being able to feel the music and what were you saying in a time that, you know, you were just really creating your own lane, you know?
Okay.
You know, back during that time too, it was a brother. I think you might know the Blue Roach. Remember the Blue Roach? You remember him? Okay. Dang, I can't even think. Kelsey Davis. Remember Kelsey?
I remember Kelsey Davis. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's an example of, you know, being able to carve your own lane. Liz Wright was a jazz vocalist, and she was, you know, maybe 18 at that time, and yeah, she's really, you know, blossomed. And, you know, for me, it was just like, it was something unique about each artist. And even to this day, it's really, we just had a Soul Sisters Juke joint, and the Soul Sisters Juke joint went from the days of Apache Cafe, and then having a mainstay at the 5 Spot, having a mainstay at In the New back in the day, to the theater. So once we went to the theater, man, it was like, all right, not only can we do 3 artists, you know, we're going to include dance, or we're going to include some type of visual component, you know, and really I compare it to like for independent artists, like this Carnegie Hall experience, because at the same time, we want to treat you, you know, we're going to water you down. You're gonna eat really well. We're gonna honor you. You're gonna have some serious snacks. You know, we're gonna do rehearsals. And then at the same time, there's an element of trust in that for the women who are performing, because literally we choose the music. I go through and I listen to the music, and sometimes there's a fine line or a synergy or a commonality that, you know, whatever the theme is, then, you know, it's some type of synergy. So then, you know, once I get those legs as to what the music is, then I can maybe intertwine some visions around what do the visuals look like? How is there a multimedia component? Can we place in some dance, which all individually I'm highlighting those particular artists. But when it comes together, it's just such, you know, I always say when women come together, mountains can move, you know.
Oh,
so
yeah. I've seen that.
To place, you know, powerful women in their own right in a collective environment where we integrate their music and then they see it pop together. Man, that for me is just, that's the most rewarding experience when the women really see, you know, because it's almost like you're blindfolded until maybe the rehearsals, because each artist, they really don't know, like, what is this? But there's a powerful component of trust throughout the way. I always say that Soul Sisters Juke Joint is a rites of passage, and, you know, it just always begins with the uniqueness. Like Divinity performed the last Soul Sisters Juke Joint, which was in December of last year, and a host of other powerful artists that were on stage. And you know, but it's something unique about what each artist is saying. And sometimes it's, you know, maybe it's a political stance, or maybe it's a something that is uplifting or inspiring. And sometimes it's not like that artist is on that same show. It could be like, okay, this may not work for now. It might work for later, but it doesn't water down you know, what you're saying. You remember probably Desiree Dawn back in the day.
Yes.
You remember her?
Yes.
Desiree Dawn. So she's got another I can't remember what she goes by now, but she was a powerful artist that also breathed her own lane, you know. So yeah, so, you know, it always kind of begins with the uniqueness, someone on the cutting edge, someone that's carving their own lane. And, you know, how can I really assist in uplifting their dopeness? You know, how can I assist in that? You know?
Yeah,
it's just organic feeling.
I feel you, because I felt like when I went to Susa Juke Joint, especially the days it grew, I felt like we were back in Africa. We were on the village, right? And this was a presentation for the community, right? The villages have come together. So there's a soul force that always like permeates, you know, what you do with Soul Sisters Juke Joint. And for me, you know, one of the good things about this white bread education that I have, I learned marketing and stamp of approvals, right? And so what I realized is that I had a responsibility. So here I am. I have an opportunity to write for these publications that are mainstream. I was like, how can I use that power for Black folks, right? And so not only like you did the music hit me, but I was like, in order for these people to get to like a Mr. Bohannon status, right? They have to have articles. They have to have this stamp of approval in order for them to progress in their career. So like when I heard Anthony Davis like Cold Turkey, it just kind of hit me. You know what I'm saying? It just hit me because you know I know some crazy relationships. We already talked about how I used to pick women. Okay, so when I heard Cold Turkey. Can't quit somebody. I was like, oh yeah, we gotta put this brother on. When I heard Divinity slapping on that bass, I was like, oh, we gotta put him on. When I heard Dress the Beatnik, I was like, oh God, put him on the cover. What's going on? Let's put him on the cover. So, you know, not only does it hit me in my spirit, but then I felt an obligation to be hit in my spirit and share that with people. And I felt that my role as a journalist, especially in those creative loafing years, was to use that lane and that space to put Black people that were unappreciated on.
That's right. Well, I'm going to call them foot soldiers.
Come on, man.
sometimes, you know, we're those foot soldiers, you know, to be able to, first of all, be connected to different entities and different people and traveling different networks of folks, so that we can implement, you know, implement what we know to be greatness, you know, and to utilize those platforms. And sometimes, you know, Ed, we create the platform.
Yeah,
You know
yeah, yeah.
we create the platform. So I'm just honored. You know, it just puts me in a place of just really being honored to serve. And at the same time, it's our vehicle to grow too. You
Yeah.
know, from afros to shelltoes and sweet tea ethics, it grows you as a person. It enriches your journey. You know, it shifts and massages your perspective, you know. And the same thing for soul sisters. Ooh, did you get that?
Yeah, I
This
felt that.
massages
I felt
your
that.
perspective.
Yeah,
Ow.
massage it.
Put some sweet tea on it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So, but I think that it really, you know, cultivates us as people, and really, you know, they say life is it's not a destination, it's a journey, and
Yeah.
it really creates the spirit of every step of the way, every single step of the way. I think it's just, I don't know, honoring the moment, Ed. You know, honoring the moments of how we get there,
So,
and knowing that.
what are you listening to now? Because I've been really, you know, prioritizing self-care, because, you know, whenever I don't do self-care, it's like I hear you and the ancestors about to pop me. So I feel like I can go hum in the corner and hit before Kemi
Go
cuss
and
out,
get it
right?
together.
So I
Right.
just been in jazz lately, man. I'm talking
Yeah.
about like Donald Byrd, Herbie Hancock. I just been really in a jazz mood lately. So
Yeah.
I created all these jazz playlists. I think it's because I've been in a reflective space. So jazz is all on me right now. What are you listening to right now?
Man, you know what?
That's healing you.
I really been kind of integrated this. Um, the Clark sisters have just been on my radar lately.
You brought
Yeah.
sunshine in my life. Oh, come on now. All right.
I've been just on the project, just you know, I don't know. I think also just bringing in the spirit of my grandmothers, you
Okay.
know, bringing in the energy of powerful women, um, and grounding this whole epidemic, pandemic, what
Yeah.
have you, and yeah, just the Clark sisters has really been on my radar, and then jazz, just several different jazz playlists,
Okay.
and just finding myself in a space of reflection as well. And sometimes for me, a good gospel house set is gonna set me
Oh.
out. You know, DJ Applejack, or
I got you.
and then sometimes I just be still. You know,
Yeah.
there's been a balance for me,
Okay.
and sometimes I need to hear my own voice. I need to hear my intuition. I need to be able to um, hear my breath. Just be so in tune with myself. Like, okay, what are you feeling? What is your body feeling? You know, and to remove any other, you know, any other space of sound, or just being still. It's been a balance for me. Sometimes I've been like really like, all right, probably a couple of weeks ago, no, one day last week, it was, you know, the Clark sisters, and I sat and I listened to them for
Yeah.
hours. I would just go through and I would see like, oh, okay, well, this sister, you know, had a daughter and now she sings, and like, okay, so it just took me on this powerful journey.
Yeah.
And then there are times that I sit in that same chair and I just sit and I just be still, you know, and do it as much as I can to kind of be in tune with myself, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what thoughts are there. Okay, if it's a disempowering thought, like where does that come from? What are you afraid of? And so sometimes in order to really isolate whatever the root cause of me, you know, shifting or peeling back, or letting go, sometimes I have to be able to isolate, you know,
Yeah.
what's going on with myself. So, you know, there's been a balance for me sometimes musically, you know, jazz and gospel music, but stillness has been very much so present, You know, sometimes grandma would say, sometimes you got to be like a tree planted by the rivers of still waters.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got a poem for you, Ed.
Oh,
Here it is.
okay.
I got a poem for you.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Here's one that I've been kind of reciting for myself and learning. You know, I am in the womb of myself, manifesting a rebirth, resurrecting my soul, consciously being born again into the light of my spirit, consciously being born again into the light of my spirit. Awakened from sleep, I'm dreaming, floating away, remembering how I got here, floating amidst still waters and darkness, blanketed by the illusion of fear, comforted in complacency and confusion, infantile in my mind's emotions. And there have been days and times I felt in fetal position, wishing for more days and more time to contemplate and formulate a plan for my destiny. But my destiny is here seeking liberation, unfolding right before my eyes, illuminating a path back into the self I'd forgotten. Realizing that at one time only darkness existed, until the ancestors sanctioned the opening of my eyes, shedding light into the womb, igniting my cocoon to bloom and flower like lotus leaves. Spreading my wings, I surrender myself to the birth canal, withstanding contractions at every turn, receiving blessings and lessons learned. And I am compelled to conform my physical to meet the needs of my spiritual, to balance them as one, radiate as the sun and moon in its fullness, embrace the fact that at last I found myself amongst the ashes and clay of human existence, knowing that without you and I there is none, for together our spirits reflect the sun. Collectively our souls are one and the same, and the only thing that remains constant is change. So that's where I've been here.
I'm not gonna cry on no Instagram live, okay? I'm not gonna do it, okay? But you know what I always like about your work is that there's this wisdom beyond your years, and you have your own style. But I sit there and listen to you in reverence like I would a Maya Angelou or Nikki Giovanni. But you've been on some lotus flower, like a lotus flower, okay?
And look, Ed, here's the thing, like, I'm still in awe of spirit, like how words like magically appear through fingers and black ink. You know what I mean? And I wrote that many, many, many years ago. And it being so relevant, like right now. And sometimes I say those words to myself as a space of giving me more energy to just move forward, to remind myself that though I feel like I'm in fetal position right now, there is a reason for it, you know? And I'm reminded of those words, and I'm reminded that they were a gift to me to give to the world, but it's for me to try on first and for me to do it. You know what I mean? And
we got about a minute. So this is
what you gonna leave with the people, Ed? Well, first of all,
I don't have time to leave a poem, but I just want to say, I appreciate and love, how the spirit jumps out of you. It jumps into me and feeds me, and so hopefully we can continue, to feed people because music, culture, art, it feeds us, and so we got to continue to sit at the table.
And the 5 lessons, give it to him one time, Ed.
5 lessons that I learned from Mr. Bohannon. Bohannon. Own your masters, Black pride and dignity. Celebrate yourself. Put your family first. That means blood and kinship networks. And have a sense of humility.
Absolutely. This is Porch on Peachtree. This is Porch on Peachtree. We are kicking it to you, and we love and appreciate you. And hey,
Porch on Peachtree with Garnes
next week, y'all. Stay tuned.
We'll see y'all next week. I love you, Sister Kemi.
Love you, brother. We're going out with Mr. Bohannon.
All right now. Oh,
yeah.
do it. All right, we'll see y'all later. Hey.